Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back, functioning, ready to go as we steer you through to the Amex Stadium, quite literally on this edition of Last Word on Spurs. I am aware there's an issue right now. Look, it's Tottenham. Why wouldn't there be an issue? In our comment section, we're trying to fix that for you. So please feel free, feel patient. We will get you involved and get you interactive with the show as soon as possible. Hopefully we've got a mod in there in the background trying to fix it. But like I say, with Tottenham, there's always something that potentially is broke. So we're working on it. We're going to fix it for you. Welcome. If you're here with us the first time here, you can find us. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're delighted to have 3 returning faces to Last Word. Look how happy they are to be here, smiling away in the Thomas Frank era. Back on the show. Oh, never a dull moment in this man's week. We've got the wonderful Johnny Hamme over from the Spurs 5 and, of course, Football Inc. John, love to be back alongside me. Excited for a trip to the Amex? It would help if I unmute him. John, let's get you in.
Yeah, I'm taking the Thomas Frank Express all the straight to the ground today. No driving, and looking forward to a long overdue win. And good to be here on the show again with DK Max and Gary, obviously. He's lovely.
We went from a rapper there to Gary. That sounded very
DK
kind of
Max.
almost...
Yeah, DK Max, not to be confused with the discount store. But no, I think that we're on a roll at the moment. There's so much positivity around, and it'd be great to carry that forward. Great to be here.
Absolutely, mate. Lovely to have you here. We've got to be careful because we start saying things like DK Max and B&M. People are going to think, where is this show turning into? Where are we going on this show? Also back alongside Johnny, delighted to have this man back. He was with us on deadline day. They both of us on deadline day, which was frantic. It was crazy, as everybody knows that followed this show. Gary Ward's back on Last One Spurs. Gaz, lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Slightly disappointed you haven't put a hat on. You haven't joined the team today.
Listen, for those that have watched me over the last 7-8 years, I've got to try and find a hat before we start. That's half the battle.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. You got to find the one that can fit that head at the size.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell me about it.
We're doing great, mate. Thanks for having me back on. Excited for the game against Brighton. I think some really good performances recently from us. Yep. And excited of the Thomas Frank era.
Yes. Yeah. Like I say, I know the last week or so, there's been a certain few murmurs that people want to see more of a Tadaris to do attacking brand of football. Thomas Frank is ensuring us phase 2 and phase 3 are being worked on. Talk about phases. One man that we love to have back on the show. It's always a great phase whenever he comes on the show. Second time, it's a pleasure. The wonderful DK Max, as Johnny called him, like a rapper. Danny Kyriacou is back. Dan, how are you? Let me tell you here.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm liking the DK Max. That's a nice one, Johnny. Maybe I have to stop. Maybe I have to steal that. No, I'm good. I'm good to be on a great panel of all these guys, and an absolute pleasure to be back on, Rick. So thank you for having me. And I echo Gary's words as well. I'm looking forward to the game. I think we could actually beat them this time. I think we look at what happened with West Ham. Right, we hadn't beaten them in since Jose Mourinho's first game, and we absolutely trolleyed them like no tomorrow. So I'm hoping we can do the same thing against Brighton. Now we've got the Thomas the Choo Choo Frank engine in at the helm now. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, listen, let's give you a rundown of what we're going to cover in this next hour and a bit of all things Tottenham, of course. And we're going to give you an update of where we are with regards to James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, of course, two of Spurs' pivotal, you'd say, number 10 lock pickers that we're missing currently from Spurs' squad. And there's been a real emphasis, of course, there being on Xavi Simons to be Tottenham's main creator, where Frank has commented on where he thinks his best position will be ahead of our trip to the Amex. More bad news when it comes to Dominic Solanke. He is out and remaining out for Tottenham's upcoming games against Brighton and Doncaster Rovers, respectively. We'll be telling you when we may see Dominic Solanke back in a Tottenham shirt. And how concerning is it that he's missed quite a number of games for Spurs in quite a busy period for the club? Murmurs still won't go away. Will we see the return of Harry Kane in a Tottenham shirt, despite telling Bayern Munich media earlier in the week he moved to Bayern to play those games against Chelsea? The murmurs and the rumours still carry on. Could he come back to Tottenham? And of course, on the horizon for Spurs in this next 24 hours is a trip to the Amex, where Tottenham will be facing Brighton, of course. Been a difficult hunting ground for Spurs in recent years, it has to be said, but Spurs are looking to win their third successive game in 7 days across all competitions. They travel to the Amex, and Spurs are looking to seek revenge against the Seagulls after losing both home and away meetings in the top flight of last season and conceding 7 goals in the process. John, I will open with you because we're going to just ask a quick couple of questions on this Brighton game. Is this Tottenham's biggest test so far in terms of Premier League to know where we are under Thomas Frank? Difficult place to go. Record there, not great. I mean, many would have said last week was really the litmus test away at West Ham being a London derby. But is this now another great test to see where we are under Thomas Frank?
I think the biggest test was Man City away, if I'm honest. But I think this is a ground we struggle with. I think a couple of encouraging injuries, if there's ever such thing as an encouraging injury for them. Hinchelwood went off early after 3 minutes. He's done a lot of damage when we play them. And De Cooper went into the boards, nudged them by Semenya. So hopefully 2 players missing from that left-hand side might give us some hope. But it's a tough day. With Minte on one side and Mitoma on the other, I think they're going to give us the toughest test that we've had down the flanks. And it's an interesting one because although they have this danger, they haven't got the results they probably should have got at this stage of the season. I'm expecting a real tough game, short and sweet. We'll come on to depth, obviously, after.
Yep. Listen, on that point there, you say, Johnny, just swinging it over to you if I can, Dan. You know, Spurs, we've made a decent start. Some would say an excellent start so far under Thomas Frank. 4 wins from 5 in all competitions. Spurs now targeting 3 Premier League straight victories for the first time since a 4-match run in October and November of 2020. That's how far you've got to go back to have Spurs on the run they are right now in the Premier League. So it just tells you really how hard it is to win accumulative games in this league. It's one of the most demanding leagues in the world. We know there's always surprises when it comes to it. How big is this test, Dan? Brighton away. We keep on saying it's not an easy hunting ground to go, but win there, and fans will start to dream, as Frank did allude to in his press conference. We are going to need Dan to unmute if he can for us from his end. He might have an unmute.
Sorry.
We've got you.
I do, yeah. I was going to say, if anyone's going to do it, Ricky, it's going to be Frank, right? For me, I think I haven't seen this defensive solidity for a very long time at Spurs. I know we know where the issues are up front, but I think that's a quality issue in my opinion. But with the defensive side of the game, I think this test on the weekend is going to be the biggest test I think he has had. I think it will be bigger than Man City, purely because we just don't do well at Brighton when we go there. Even when they come to our ground, to be honest, we don't really do that the greatest with them in the last couple of years. So I'm looking forward to it, and I genuinely feel that if we can beat Brighton in a way where we're actually stopping them playing their game, and like where we keep another clean sheet, that is a really good sign. I'm not saying we're going to win the league or anything. None of that. I don't want to hear none of that talk. But it's
at least wait till we get to match day 10 against Chelsea. Can I just at that point that I bring you back in? Chelsea now, it might be a good omen for us. That Chelsea game's been moved, I think, to Saturday at 5:30. And I think the last Saturday we had at 5:30, I think, would have been the Harry Kane game, where I think he's got an incredible brace, I think it was for Harry. That obviously took us to a fire-free win against, I think at the time, Jose Mourinho's Chelsea, I believe. So that might be a good omen for us, but please, Dan, carry on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that as well. I think we just take it game by game, though, because Chelsea is Chelsea. Lovely. Big up, Kate. I love Kate. I don't know. I've got a feeling that I think we're just hard to beat. And I think he will go into it with that intention to not concede a goal. And for me, that's what I'm looking for right now. I just want to keep seeing consistency, and I know we're not going to be playing this full throttle football right this minute, or there'll be certain games where we play like that, but for now I think we've just got to build that momentum, build that consistency, and we need to give them the confidence to the players, because when they start, if they can keep churning out like clean sheets and we're beating teams away from home, and like you said, we haven't won 4 games in a row since 3 games in a row since 2020.
That's right, in the Premier League. Yep, that's right.
That's a long time. That's a long time in the Premier League for a club like Tottenham. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very hard test, but I think they can do it. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, Gator's bringing you in there. We emphasise how difficult it is in this league to, number one, win accumulative games and also to keep clean sheets. Spurs have kept 4 of their last 5 clean sheets in all competitions. Something that Frank has really said was a priority for him coming in the summer, to really have a real emphasis and focus on that defence, shoring it up, getting them more resilient. I think it's fair to say we are seeing that defensive resilience and structure. Although what I would say to people out there for balance of the show, we are also giving away a lot of chances. We can't get away from that. It would be wrong of me to sit there and say that in the last 3 or 4 games, especially the home games that we've had a lot of teams that have come to Spurs and a lot of shots we've had to face. So we do know that's an area that they are going to have to look at in general. But at the same time, on this Brighton game itself, they've lost 1 of their last 10 home Premier League matches, 1-6, drawn 3, and they are unbeaten in 6 at the Amex since a 3-0 defeat to Villa in April. So it just shows you how difficult and how tricky the task will be for Spurs to go to Brighton and get 3 points. Despite the run that we're on right now, how do you feel going into this game on the back of what we've had? 3 wins in a week in the last 7 days. Everyone's in quite a buoyant mood. Thoughts on the game for you?
Yeah, I think every away game in the Premier League is difficult, but I think this is probably extra difficult. They're a good side as well. We haven't really seen the best of them yet in the Premier League this season. It's early. 1 win, 1 draw, and 2 defeats. That's not really sort of what you're expecting from Brighton. 8 games in the last 8 home games against us, we've won 3, they've won 4. So history is on their side, and we haven't won there for a long time. So it is certainly going to be difficult. But what I do like from Thomas Frank at the moment is, while we're not playing well, we're still grinding out results, and that to me is building momentum. If we continue to build momentum, that builds confidence. Confidence then breeds results. Results then they churn on. They tick over, and the more results you get, the higher up the league we're going to be. And if we can start that now, with churning out these difficult wins, on Wednesday night in the Champions League, Tuesday night, it wasn't a pretty performance by any stretch of the imagination, but we churned out a victory. And sometimes you need to win not pretty. And if we can keep doing those things, but then put pretty performances in as well, sky's the limit, really. But we just need to be of the understanding this is a difficult away game for us. History isn't really on our side. And but I'm quietly confident, and I have been in every game we've gone into. I think the only game I wasn't overly confident with was Man City, and it was probably one of our best performances, because I thought, you don't know what Man City you're going to get. But full credit to Thomas Frank and what he's doing. But we do need to slightly step back a little bit and understand that this is a difficult time for us. And Brighton are a good team, and they will come good because they've got a good manager, good young manager there.
They have indeed. What's also intriguing, John, on this point is the fact that it could be the first time we're going to have to see Frank have to manage going from a European tie back into the Premier League, which I think, it can't be underestimated. They were at home, so the fact there's been no travelling in terms of being abroad, the managing aspect of it, having the 2 games a week, there was a recovery day in there as well, which would have been less time on the training ground. I know Frank said, I think in his pre-match, that his analysts and him, they've watched all of Brighton's games so far. They haven't watched back Spurs' games against Brighton last season. I got to say, I don't blame them. I'm not sure you'd want to put yourself through Tottenham's
Nor have I.
Nor have we, to be fair. How do you think he's going to manage this, John, in terms of that transition from European to Premier League games? Because ultimately, that is what the club are going to be judging him on. That's what we've been told they've made that change from Ange to Frank, because he needs to be competitive across all fronts. How do you think he's going to handle that transition?
It's going to be a tricky game for the sense that Spurs are very good, not in possession at the moment, not so good in possession of the ball, moving the ball. Phase 1, absolutely fantastic. Phase 2, not bad. Phase 3, really not happening.
Are you just on that point, John? Are you where we expected us to be at this stage, or are we ahead?
I'm ahead. We're ahead. We're well ahead. We're well ahead. I mean, look, the thing is, you've got Jed Spence. Look, he's done fantastic. But all said and done, he's a right back. So what you've got is a guy who's running down that left-hand side and people berating him for not crossing the ball properly, right? He's got to check onto his other foot, okay, which means he has to stop And you've now got Xavi Simons also on that side. Two right-footed players playing on that left-hand side. It's not smooth, it's not seamless. It's not ideal. What he's doing, he's putting square pegs in round holes to fill and sort the situation as we find ourselves in right now. But are we ahead of where we should be? Yes. Look, as I've said before, the professor, as they called him, and as I call him, he studies every single aspect of football and the game and who the opposition are, unlike our previous incumbent. And the thing I love about this manager is, as much as I can study football and watch him, and I've been watching him for 5 years now, I never know what formation he's going to set up with. I've got a good idea who I think the team were going to be, but there's always some sort of tweak. The only thing is right now, we're too early in Frank ball, if you want to call it that, to have the squad adapt to changing in-game tactics. That's going to be a lot harder. Brentford players definitely were able to do that, like very early on. If he sees something he doesn't like, he would switch the tactics straight away. Wouldn't wait to about half time. Would just straight away he's on it. Hands-on coach. I don't think the game took a lot out of our players. It was a terrible game of football. Let's be honest.
You wouldn't watch it back. You wouldn't watch it back.
No. I wouldn't watch this part of it back. Our transition, our passing, it was a shambles. I'm not going to go into individuals because it's pointless. No. But I think the interesting thing is up front. Is he going to give Richie another try? But, bearing in mind that he was playing in South America, up in Bolivia, high altitude and all the rest of it. I'm trying to find an excuse where there really shouldn't be one. But is he going to go with Matthias Tell again, like he did against West Ham when he had I think 4 or 5 touches in the whole of the first half? He brings Richie on and he had 2. The final third is really the where it's all falling down right at this moment. Yep. And the thing is, the manager's not hiding from it. He stated over and over again, I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. The final third isn't right because Xavi Simons should be pushed into the middle. We know that. We know that he shouldn't be playing out on that left-hand side. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something that we didn't expect to see come the weekend, whether or not that is Odegaard playing out on that left-hand side and he pushes Xavi Simons into the middle. Personally speaking, with Minte and Mitoma playing, I would actually drop Pedro Porro. And that's not, I drop Pedro Porro because he's a poor player. It's because I know that when it comes to defending these two positions, I know that Jed Spence will be a better defender against Mitoma, and Destiny will have the mark for Minte. But the difference is, on the counter-attack, those two will both be attacking against those two attackers or two wingers on their right foot or left foot, whatever they may be. And I think that's our best chance on the counter-attack to score. Whether or not he'll do that or not, I don't know, but that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, just on Xavi Simons, where I bring Dan back in, he was asked about Xavi Simons in his pre-match presser, and he said about his position, do you see him predominantly as a number 10? He said, I see actually in both positions. He can play both positions, but I agree 10 is a good position for him as well. He said, I think it's about letting him grow and develop. Where we came from the summer, the fact of the matter is we had the likes we thought available to us, Kulusevski, Son, Maddison, Solanke. None of them are available. Some have left. So it's a completely new front four. Xavi came late into the picture. Mo has come in pre-season. Dom hasn't been fully fit. We play with Papa and Lucas as a 10. So we're trying to add those layers, game for game. But right now, our strongest bit in the team is our structure. And I think the way we defend, which is also a very offensive way of defending with the high pressure, because we win the ball high, we keep initiative, we can be aggressive and we can be intense. I think we are building more into the offensive players in the future, depending on, of course, how players are developing. I also need to say that Lucas is doing quite well as well in the number 10, of course, referring to Lucas Bergvall, who, to be fair, we're going to come on to him shortly. Looks like he's going to have another storming season in a Tottenham shirt. But different profile than Xavi, but offers something. We're going to have a lot of games to play this season. And he was really emphasising the point, Dan, beforehand, that he wants Tottenham to play to dare to do football. He wants Spurs to be on the attack. He certainly doesn't want to waver away from what Spurs fans have known to be the traditions of this club, which is front foot, attacking football and not having a low block and defending at home. So just on that point, Dan, I mean, where are you in terms of that kind of progress chart? Are you where we expect us to be? Are we ahead of schedule? Because I know, again, following the other night, although we won the game, there was and ahhings thinking we've got to see more attacking play here. Where are you, Dan, on that spectrum?
I think, first of all, I think we're definitely ahead of where I thought it'd be. The fact that we've gone from finishing 17th and the way we were playing last season to completely switching up. I know we saw it at the back end of the Europa League and that's how we won the Europa League, but to kind of see that so quickly already, the structure is for everyone to see. Like every single fan from any other club can see, and all the pundits are talking about it. And for me personally, I think the attacking sense is a couple of things why it's not there just yet. First of all, Frank takes time to implement his ideas, and he doesn't always start off quickly. If you look at the history that the clubs he's been at, it's taken a bit of time for him to really get going fully into the full sort of flow of things and how he wants them to play, how he wants them to progress the ball, how he wants them to actually utilize their chances. Even, for example, Brentford last season, we hadn't seen the way he coached Mbeumo and Vissa, the way that they played last year. It's their best ever season, and they were progressively getting better and better each year. And that's one element of it. The second element for me is I feel that at the moment, the three midfielders, I think our midfielders are all playing quite well. I think Bentancur's playing well. I think Bergval's playing well. I think Sarr's playing well. And Paulina is just an animal, right? And I think his problem is, how do you fit Xavi Simons in the role that he needs to play to utilize him the most? How do you fit that in when you've got so many of the other midfielders performing at a high level or a lot better than what we've seen in the last year? And then drop one of them out and then trust to put Odebear or Tell on the left wing, or Mawani, who is probably not fully ready just yet. So I think what I'm seeing with Frank is that he's trying to get Xavi into the team because he believes Xavi is the better out of all of those options to play in that left wing role than what we have right now in terms of fitness, in terms of quality, which I agree with, but it does hinder our kind of flow in the attacking sense, because you could just see how Spence and Xavi Simons on the left wing, how they're combining. It's not flowing. But what the thing I love about Frank is that he can see what we can see, because he is stating it really. And he mentioned it after the game against Villarreal about how I think it was Villarreal. It might be in the last game. Yeah, I think
I blame it. It's that forgettable, Dan. I don't blame you for forgetting him. It was
yeah. It was. But I think he did actually mention a little bit of it in the West Ham game, where he talked about their connections not there yet, basically, or something on those lines. And I think we can all see it. Like it just doesn't look right, because when he overlaps, he can't cross the ball in on his left foot. That's Spence I'm talking about, and Xavi Simons is cutting inside as well, so it doesn't really work in a flowing way that you want it to. And I think part of it is that he also is not 100% on who his strongest team is just yet, or his formation. But the thing is with Frank is he does like to adjust his formation and sort of approach to the build-up play in the game, or how we're going to press, how we're going to defend, dependent on the opponent we're playing. So like the Villarreal game, I think he just wanted to win. I don't think he wanted to go full out attack. It's his first Champions League game. He doesn't want to lose it. He wants a clean sheet again, that momentum. Yep. So
I think yeah.
I think once he gets better quality in that in sort of the left wing position, the striker position, then you're going to start to see who his main 11 are in the biggest games. That's when you're going to probably see it. But I'm happy with what's going on so far, and I think it will come. I think the finishing side of the game, I think that is going to come with a bit of time, but we can't rush it. Like I think Spurs fans always want everything right now. Like it has to be like 5-0 right now. 5 every game, 5-0 kind of thing.
I mean, you made a really important point, Dan. I don't see not to, again to disrespect the previous regime, because I keep saying it's that we were all so thankful for winning that trophy, and the week we all had as Spurs fans in the lead up to that parade and what came before it and after it, and that feeling we've had across the summer. This is not to disrespect anybody or any manager or any player, but at the same time, guys, to bring you in, I think Danny made a really important point. People are sometimes forgetting we are going from 17th to try then and adjust the team with 4 or 5 new players and rocket back up the league. And it's very hard to have all those components working in such little time. Now, I do understand and do respect the fact that, especially at home, we can't be facing 20, 25 shots a game. We just can't be. You know, with Tottenham Hotspur, we've all spoken about that home ground being a fortress. But at the same time, what's given me confidence about this, guys, is that the manager has clearly stated, and he's again re-emphasised it in his pre-match ahead of Brighton, he wants Tottenham to be an attacking front foot side that want to be aggressive and dominant with the ball. If the manager was coming out saying the opposite to that, I'd be really, really worried. But the manager is clearly stating and emphasising the fact there's a prime focus on really pushing the boundaries in that attacking front three. Now, John wants to come back in. I will bring John in after the point you're going to make, Gal. Can you, I mean, where are we in your mind about Frank and the progress he's making with this Spurs squad at the moment?
He just gets what we want as fans, and he's got that within the space of 5 games. And I think that that's a testament to him. He's understood the history of the club and what we want as fans and what we want to watch. Equally, there's obviously a very famous saying that defence wins championships, and last season we were consistently shipping goals left, right, and centre, and you can see that from previous manager that we had that seems to follow. And that was the problem that we immediately needed to stop, and as well as defending from set pieces. And I think the 4 of us, and however many hundreds of people or thousands of people that are watching, I think we can all sit here now and say our defence has improved and we're better on set pieces. And they're the 2 main things there where I felt that we really struggled last season. We could score goals, and we'll have the ability to score goals, and we will take those. I think that there's some good points made as well, that maybe we're expecting too much too quickly. And I think that's just human nature anyway. But there's a front 4 that have never played football together, and we're expecting them to be fluid and pull up 10 out of 10 performances. And they are outstanding footballers, and they will get better the more they play together, and the more they train together, and the more they interact and get to know each other. They'll just naturally improve. But at the moment, they've only been together 2 or 3 weeks. So it's very difficult for them to hit the ground running as a front 4. So I think that once we get to that point, and maybe a few more games under our belt, that fluidity will come in. I've got no doubt about it, especially with the manager. I'm on Johnny's side here. I think he's one of the best managers there is out there, and I'm so happy he's a Tottenham manager. And I'm sure, and Danny's nodding his head, and he agrees. And I've got every confidence in everything that he's doing and what he says, because he gets it. I don't feel like I'm being lied to when I listen to him.
I think also, I mean, people keep saying this as well to me whenever they see me in the street, that I look so much happier these days. I said, look, hold on, we're not match day 10 against Chelsea yet.
It's so weird. Like,
at least we get the match day 10 against Chelsea.
I was on holiday recently, and people like talking to you about Tottenham, and I'm thinking, my God, I never had this before. Yeah, is it because I look happier? And maybe it is. It's just, it's a great feeling. But we need to understand. And look, Thomas Frank was very, very honest. He said, we're going to lose football games, and we will. And I've got no doubt, I've got no worries that we're going to lose football games. I want to see how we bounce back and how we improve. And at the moment, I'm very happy with the performances that he's churning out. To be honest, Tuesday, I didn't think we played amazingly. We scored very early. And for a large part, we went, come on then, come and take it off us. You ain't going to take it off us. I'm just going to knock it about here. And there was a few people behind me getting really irate about it. And in my head, I was on my own, and I didn't want to go, actually, mate, we're winning. They're not coming to take the ball off us. So what's the point? But I didn't do that because, they'd had a few sherbets. But they're the type of things. Come and take the ball off us then. Yeah. You don't need to go. But as a human nature, me, Johnny, Danny, you, Rick, we just want to see attacking football, loads of goals. And that's just us.
That the home fans that go week in, week out, every bi-weekly, and our away fans are hardcore to put away fans, what we love dearly. And Dan's in there most weeks as well, bless him now. Everyone wants Spurs to go and dominate the ball. That's just the way Tottenham have always been.
Oh yeah,
we've been brought up as Spurs fans, but I think look, Spurs fans that watch this show, I can tell you, these are articulate people that come and listen to the show. Well, most of them are. Not sure about the bloody host, but most people are that listen and watch this show. The reality is that I think most people understand that we're in a process now, and it can't all happen from day one. It is going to take time. But I agree with Gary. I think the biggest thing for me is that when I hear Frank in a press conference, so I keep saying it's on a match day, when I turn up to watch Tottenham now, I am reassured by the feeling. And again, it's not to disrespect the previous regime. I know Spurs aren't going to concede 4 or 5 every week. I can see there's a real solidarity to the way the players are. And it's the happiest, and we'll come on to in a second. You see Christian Romero in a Spurs shirt, and Frank was actually asked that question in his press. So look, we are going to go.
Look at that.
Yeah.
He's leaving. He's leaving. If Ange goes, Coots. Yeah.
Just look at that
leaving.
We're gonna quit. We're gonna quit. Go on, Gal. You want to say something before we go for a break?
And just for people that obviously aren't watching it, it's Romero and Frank together, and that is incredible, and that is so good to see. And the togetherness is already there, and you can see it in such a short time. He's brought a club together, a group of players together that finished 17th in the league. Okay, we won the Europa. But their confidence must have been shot that they were losing. And if you listen to the Mickey van der Ven interview he did on I think with Sky Sports actually, and he talked about that he was fit and he just wasn't playing. He was just everything was about one thing. And players have got to play to be happy, and you could see that. You can see it even on Tuesday when they went around the pitch after. They all just look such together, and he's got to take a large bit of credit for that.
Winner. The thing is, Cuti Romero is a winner. You might not like him. You might not rate him. You might say he's rash. He's up and down. He's used to winning, right? He won in Serie A, Defender of the Year, right? He's won Copa America twice. He's won the World Cup. He's won Player of the tournament in the UEFA. He won Player of the final. Look, the guy is a winner. When it counts, the guy's there. Right,
absolutely.
Unfortunately, it wasn't to be against PSG, but for someone like myself, who I actually never ever thought I would see Thomas Frank. I've had this sort of thing about Thomas Frank for a number of years. I never thought he'd come to Spurs. Not that he wouldn't take the job, but we would never ever offer it to him. I used to say, after the Brentford games when I watched them, look at him. He's making the players walk round that pitch, win, lose or draw, and applaud every single fan that's in that stadium. And they did it every week without fail. And the fans stayed. They were, not everyone leaving the stadium.
Johnny,
do it here. And
to add to what you were saying, just quickly, I think he's starting to unite the fan base. It's been so divided for so long. I think everyone is literally on board the Thomas Frank engine train. That's exactly what they're on board with.
They weren't at the beginning, because I think, I understand the love for Ange, but the thing is, I think we had spent so long after Pochettino watching dour football that when Ange came along and we were playing attacking football, it was just a breath of fresh air for us to enjoy, that we'd come out of that terrible sort of defensive, boring mess that we were playing. Unfortunately, the old adage, be careful what you wish for, because whilst you attack, as Gary says, all great teams, all championship winning teams start from a great defence. And, when you look at Jan and Toby, this is the best defensive pairing or best defense we've had since those times. And, even the set pieces, you look at our set pieces. I was getting excited the first game when I was watching us warm up before the game kicked off. Yeah. And the guy next to me says, "Mate, calm down. They haven't even kicked off." I said, "Yeah, but look what they're doing."
Yeah, I was shocked by the pre-game rituals and the training, everything. I was shocked. I went in really early and I was like, "Wow, this is night and day different." And I used to be a football coach, coached all over, and for me to go and watch that, I was like, "Wow!" And my brother was with me, and I was like, "This is completely different."
Yep.
Yeah,
and it's showing that it's successful. It's showing
at this point. Shout out to Andrew's Jorgensen, because Andres, we do know you're watching, even though you think we're not watching. We know you are watching. He was actually told about the fact what role does he bring to Spurs, and Frank said, "Look, I've known Andres for a long time since at the Brentford days. We actually appointed him together with the Brentford guys. He stayed over a couple of years, and I think he offers so much to our coaching teams. You know, we have 3 assistant coaches, of course, alongside Matty Wells, who he's given a lot of praise to Matty on." And there's a big responsibility for Andreas, obviously from set pieces, but also the culture. He's got a different approach, which I think is so important to the group, to ask different questions, sometimes extremely annoying, but a little bit on the spot. But that's good. We need that. I need that. But obviously on the set pieces, you can see that I think we've got a very good foundation to stand on. We can get better, but defensively, we look so strong. Offensively, we look so strong too from set pieces. So a big credit to him, but also a massive credit to our analyst, Sean, but also to the players that have really, really bought into this. Look, we are going to go for that belated first break of the show. For our listeners and audio, we have got over 2,500 of you that are watching us live. Thank you so much for incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. As we steer you into the Amex, quite literally, we're joined by Gary Ward. Love to have Gary back on the show. We're joined by Johnny over at Football Inc. and the Spurs 5. And we're joined by Danny K, who will pop up wherever Danny K may pop up on any show, at any place, at any time. It's lovely to have Danny back on the show. Guys, if you can, keep liking, keep subscribing to the show. We had a small update during the week with regards to James Maddison and, of course, Dejan Kulusevski. 2 players that Spurs are desperately missing in that number 10 role from a creativity perspective. They've said, we're hungry, let's eat. We hope for both of them their returns aren't too far away. But look, at the same time, we have to put some facts out there. Maddison is expected to be out for the majority of the season. There's no change on that status. And Dejan Kulusevski, as things stand, we haven't heard anything otherwise. Kulusevski is expected to be out to the turn of the year, November time, December time. Spurs at the moment refuse to put a time frame on it. So look, whilst we need them back, they're not close to being back at the moment. And another player that also at the moment appears to not being close back, despite individually returning to training this week on the grass, is Dominic Solanke. Bridgie was on the show last week, asked him about his availability for Doncaster, and he said, look, the positive thing is that he's back on the grass. It's been 3 or 4 days. He's progressing forward, slowly but forward. It is too early for the Brighton game, too early for Doncaster. But the positive thing is that he's on the grass and progressing forward. I'll come to you, Gal, on this point about Solanke. How concerning is it that he is Tottenham's vocal number 9, if for want of a better word? You know, they spent 60 million on him, came to the club without any real injury record at Bournemouth. But at the moment at Tottenham, it's been a real stop-start season. We just can't get him going in this second season. How big a concern is that for Frank, given the lack of options, you'd say, around number 10? And obviously there needing to be a real focus on, as we keep on saying, the attacking nature of Spurs. And he's our leading striker, Gaz.
I think, yeah, there's obviously a concern, but I think it comes back to my earlier point where there's still that front 4 are getting used to each other. So I think still at this time that there's the concern there because we can see the goals aren't going in. However, if we'd have said this after 2 games where Richarlison's banged in a couple, we were all quite excited by it. So I think this is kind of a natural curve in Richarlison's sort of form that we get from him. But equally with Solanke, this seems to be a natural thing at Tottenham with injuries. I hope that it's more them being cautious than there actually being a long-term issue, that there's just caution here, because last season, look, we were bringing people back and they were lasting for 30 minutes in some cases and then going again. And we've got Richarlison there, got Kolo Muani that's come in that can play through the middle, could also play from the left as he did with Juventus last season. So I think that the concern for me is there, but not too much at the moment. I think this is more caution, I hope, than anything else.
Yeah, very quickly, boys. I know we've got quite a bit to cover in the next half an hour or so. I'll go to Dan. Dan, how concerning is it? Solanke, still injured, no real time for him in terms of coming back. Positivities from Frank, he is on the grass, and he has been so for the last 3 or 4 days. What do you think, Dan, in terms of a potential recovery for him? When do you think we're looking at? Or is it impossible to put a time frame on it because it just keeps being shifted backwards and backwards at the moment?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Gary on this. I think if they're probably just being a bit more cautious than because they don't want him to come back too quickly and then he's out for a longer period of time. To be honest with you, I'm not bothered that he's not in the squad. Of course, you want him available, but right now I think we've got more than enough cover at this moment, without barring any crazy injuries, to actually cover until he's gone. And I think the best striker that we have in the squad right now is Muani. I know we haven't seen him yet, but in terms of ability, I think he's by far the best striker. So and just by what Frank has said as well, like when if you noticed when Frank talks about the players, he always mentions the position. He always mentions like the position where I think he sees them being played in their best position. So he says it first. So like when he was talking about Mwani, he's like he can play centrally, but he can also play on the wings. And it's like with Xavi Simons, he's like a number 10, but he can also play on the left wing. And he kind of says it in a way where it's like it's a bit of both. But I think where his preference is where we're going to see him play, which is up front for Mwani, and for Simons, it'll be eventually in the number 10. So I'm not too fussed of when he comes back. Just make sure they don't rush him back. That's my concern. That's only my concern.
I mean, it's the point, John, that to be fair, Frank has made, as Danny's picked up on there, that because the club had a number of injuries last season, they're very cautious when it comes to recoveries, that players aren't rushed back. They are given necessary time to heal fully before these players are reintegrated. In terms of Solanke, do you think there's a deeper concern there, John, about his lack of availability? You know, especially, like I say, this season, because he is that number 9 that we're relying on to score the goals. He had a fairly decent season last season in terms of his GA ratio overall. Was it 15 to 20 in there? What's your gauge in terms of the fact him not being available? How big a problem is that? Or do you back Danny in terms of what he's saying there? We've got other options to cover. And with regards to Mwani, of course, did come on during the week. Got a booking with him coming on, but you can clearly see he's lacking match fitness. As you know, he hasn't played a huge amount of football since he's obviously made that move to Tottenham, and also before that as well, didn't really play much in the summer. So thoughts, John, and how that's going to work out for you?
Well, he did play in the summer, Ricky. He played in the Club World Cup, scored 2 goals and 1 assist for Juventus. But
obviously, but after that point, he's not football, right?
Listen, I'm a big Mwani fan. I think we were sold an absolute dud story when he chose Juventus over us. Imagine choosing Juventus over Spurs when we were in freefall. What a joke he would do such a thing. But the fact is that his dream move fell apart. We ended up with Matthias Tell. He ended up going to Juve on loan. Didn't happen. But as you mentioned before, I think he spent about 70 odd days without playing football. You can't just come back and play. It's not like he was training at Juventus or he was back training at PSG. But he is head and shoulders above the other 2. Sorry, we're talking about.
You think he's head and shoulders above both Jonathan and Solanke? Really?
Head and shoulders. When he's fit. And he's nowhere near fit. So, you can't be judging him now. Is he a prolific goal scorer? Not prolific. I mean, if you look at Eintracht Frankfurt, you'd probably say, yes, he was prolific. But he's a bloody handful. And if you have Xavi Simons in the middle playing as a 10, you have him as your spear, and you have a proper left back, whether it's Savinho or Ademar Lukman and Kudos on the other side. That's a frightening counter-attacking team. Are we missing Dom Solanke? Well, no, we're not. Could we be better with Dom Solanke right now? Well, Richie's not doing it. He needs to come off the grass. If he stops with the grass, then maybe he'll get fit. But I think we're not missing him now, and it's a long, long season. So for me, if it takes another 3-4 weeks for him to come back, so be it. What I'm a little bit worried about is I was told weeks ago that there's a problem with the ankle.
Okay.
And there's a problem with the ankle. And there's a problem with the ankle. Now,
right, okay.
What I'm worried about is when you play his way and you like to hold up the ball, does he ultimately need an operation? Should he have had the operation? I know they're trying to avoid the op, but will he ultimately need one? But by that time, if we can get some game time into him, we're going to need him, because Richie can't be playing Carabao Cup, Champions League, Premier League every week. I mean, the way things are going, Dane Scarlett will end up playing against Doncaster if I was them. But listen, we'll have to see. But he hasn't been prolific. Like, for me, we have spent £130 million on 2 strikers that, quite honestly, are not good enough. No disrespect to them. I hope they come on and, do the business, but they haven't They haven't fulfilled any of their promise, really. It just fits and starts.
Okay.
But just to finish, if there's one manager that can replicate what Iraola got out of Dom Solanke, playing him in the right position, not having him drop back, it will be Thomas Frank.
Okay. Look, we shall see. Obviously, Spurs' striker conundrum does go on, and like I say, we'll keep you updated with regards to progress on players and how that does work out. Another player that we can also tell you at the moment that is hoping to resume training in these next few days. You might have forgotten about it. It's been that long. Kota Takai is expected to be back in training with Spurs in this next week or so, which is a positive step. We're yet to see, of course, Spurs' summer signing, the Japanese international player. Spurs have got real, genuine high hopes for. So, like I say, we'll see in terms of how he comes along, and hopefully, he'll be given opportunities. I'm not sure whether Doncaster will come too soon for Kota, but you would imagine Frank wants to see him play because he stayed here, hasn't gone out on loan. You could argue the fact he hasn't gone out on loan is because he was injured, but we shall see. Another player that hasn't really seen too much football under Frank so far also is Archie Gray. And he was asked about Archie Gray and his lack of minutes so far and whether he was expecting more than what he's got so far and how he manages his expectations. He said, look, I think it's fair to say that he's played mainly as a centre-back and fullback last season. There were very few as a central midfielder. I like flexible players, and I think every coach likes that. I definitely think that it also gives the squad a little more depth. And I believe that I see Archie as more of a midfielder, as an 8. I think he can play both as a centre-back as well, but sometimes you need to run a games like Lucas is getting right now, and you have to take those steps. I must admit, Archie has really impressed me. He played a very good pre-season friendly against Newcastle. He really grew into that game against Burnley. He was really good in the second half, and I like his mentality. No, he was not in the squad for West Ham, and the day after he trained fantastically. Of course, I've spoken to him. I've encouraged him to keep training fantastic. And again, the previous day, he has been fantastic. So he does the bit I like, for example, from a midfielder where he can twist and turn to go forward. He's very mobile. He's reliable. And I really, really like Archie. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, you can only play 11 players. Can we change the rules? Get a few more minutes on the pitch for these guys? It would help a little bit. But the reality is, Archie's part of a squad, and his time will come. So, Frank, a big fan of Archie Gray. You'd imagine, again, a lot of these players that we're referring to here, I think, will get Carabao Cup minutes. The likes of Tell, the likes, of course, of Archie Gray. And, again, we're going to have to see. We've got a big, big game to come against Brighton, which we're going to come on to very, very shortly. But it's, a case that we do know on this point, Gal, very quickly, it is quite a big bloated squad. I know we were all crying out for, as Johnny said there, a Lookman to come in, a Savinho to come in. I think we all agree that left-hand side really, from Sonny's departure, clearly hasn't yet been sorted. And it feels the club have made a decision where they think, rather than just go out and buy anybody, we want to wait for the right player. Who that right player is, it appeared to be Savinho that we didn't get. Maybe they'll revisit that in, of course, January. But what do you make of that fact of the matter is, Gaz? The fact Kota to come back in, Archie Gray still to get minutes. There's a lot of players here that really are yet to be given the chance to show Frank what they can do.
Yeah, like Johnny was saying, there's a lot of games. We could have a lot of football games this season, Champions League, both cups, Premier League. So, that we need a squad that's of size that can handle that. Because clearly last season we were unable to handle that. So, and I think with the players that we've brought in, we've certainly improved quality. We've also improved numbers. We haven't shifted on a huge amount of people. So it's nice to know that we've got a number coming back in and still a number that need to play. So. Yeah, I think Doncaster is going to be interesting. There's another, a number of players that can get some quality amount of minutes in. Maybe Kolo Muani might be one of them. He might end up playing most of the game. I think that's probably the sensible option. And resting a number of our sort of quote unquote first teamers, guaranteed starters, and maybe looking at the under 19s, under 21s of bolstering some of that day's squad. But we've got a lot of football to play, and I think caution over anything else is probably wise with sort of our history in terms of injuries.
Yeah, that's really fair. And also, Frank was actually asked about the nature of having now quite a number of fullbacks available to him, and he commented on the fact that he now feels actually quite privileged to be at a club that does have quite a number of really good fullbacks. He also included Ben Davies in there. He said, I think it's fair to say that probably Destiny and Jed and Porro are a little bit ahead as things stands, and those three are performing at a very high level. Destiny has done very, very well for me so far. When he's come into the team, he's done very well over the last couple of seasons when he's been fully fit. Pedro, He's been just unbelievable, I think. I really, really like the way Pedro Porro plays. And Jed has built on last year. He's been so impressive in terms of his recent spell in the team and the fact that he's earned that international call-up. They have all fantastic physicality and ability to go up and down all the time. And that's a fantastic thing to have and to also drive us forward. I'm happy, and it's a privilege to have such good fullbacks at the football club. He was asked about what makes Destiny's left foot so important. And frankly, I think it's just important because the perspective is Jed gives us something else, because when you have a right footer, like we did with Kane Lewis Potter last year at Brighton, you can then cut in on your right and you almost can play as a winger sometimes. You can cut in and have that strong foot on the inside. But of course, the left foot gives some different angles when you play. You can play different angle passes into the 6, to the 8, to the 9. And of course, when you're running forward and overlapping, it's more natural to your stronger foot, of course. Just to bring you in on that point, Johnny, I know you were referring to that fact earlier about the differences Udogie offers and Spence and Porro offers. Where are you on that fullback? I wouldn't say conundrum at the moment, because to be fair, we've not had them fit enough time really for it to be a conundrum. But do you have a favour two that you feel Frank will settle on? Or because of the nature, like we said here, this could be a 55, 60 game season. Guys, get the diaries ready. We're going to be in for a very busy season here, potentially, John.
Listen, I'm so conflicted here because, first of all, I've been champion Jed Spence all the way through the abuse that he was getting. And I felt like I was getting just as much abuse for actually suggesting the fact that a certain person had got it wrong, and he will prove it. Now he has proved it, but the dilemma now is that we need a left-sided player. Now, I was a big fan of Destiny Udogie at Udinese, and if you watch him at Udinese, he used to hug that touchline. He'd pick up the ball, and he would drive forward, and he would cut in at that last moment, whip a ball in, dangerous ball in with that left foot. He would shoot, he would score, he would whip balls in. Last season, he got 1 assist. Why is that? Because when you're playing inverted, instead of running into space, what you're doing is you're running into Piccadilly Circus. It was so congested with everybody inverted. So we had no real room to operate. And I feel now under Thomas Frank's system, playing out wide, it pains me to say it, but I think in certain games, you might have to play Destiny. If you're looking to shut up shop, no one's getting past Jed. But if you want the duopoly, should I say, of, the defensive aspect and the fact of someone overlapping Xavi Simons on that side, great. Personally, I think it's time. Love Pedro Porro, but he can't play another 60-odd games. Give him a rest tomorrow. And play him against Bodo Glint in the week and put Jed Spence there. And let's see what happens. He's always going to be on the bench, if it doesn't quite work out. But that's how I would go against Brighton, especially because we need the offensive counter threat to Minte and Mitoma desperately. Yeah.
No, listen, I agree on that point. Look, we're going to squeeze in, if we can, our final break of this show for our listeners and audio. We're going to take you through to Brighton. For our listeners and audio, you're going to hear from Ryan from the Seagulls pod, who gives us an in-depth view for listeners and audio on Brighton and where they have been this season and what they have done. We're going to go for our final break of the show, and we're joined by the wonderful Gary Wall. We're joined by Johnny over at the Spurs 5 and Football Inc. And we're joined by the wonderful Danny Kyriacou. Guys, if you can, keep liking, keep subscribing. Over 4,500 of you that are watching us live. Thank you ever so much for always your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. So, Frank, if you haven't heard it, as said, there's a real emphasis on returning Spurs back to front foot attacking football. But we know, look, Brighton, they entered September's international break on a high after beating Man City 2-1. But they were brought firmly back down to earth last week when they suffered the same scoreline at the hands of Bournemouth. Karim Matoma's first goal of the season did restore parity for the Seagulls in the second half, but they eventually came away empty-handed from, of course, Bournemouth. Iriola, who, to be fair, we got also a lesson from him only a couple of weeks ago ourselves. Fabian Herzler left so frustrated. He had his 50th game in charge for Brighton, and he felt that his players didn't get the rewards for their performances. But we've come on to this, Dan, already, that this Brighton game, not going to be an easy game for Spurs, who have just conceded 1 goal so far across 450 minutes of competitive football this term. It's mad me saying that. I can't quite believe that. We're sitting third at the moment in the Premier League table going into the weekend. And as Johnny said there, in terms of team news, which for those out there that aren't aware, as he's touched upon, Jack Hinchelwood and Maxine De Quipper were both forced off with injuries in the first half of their last respective game. So they joined Adam Webster and Solly March, both in the treatment room. Quipper is a doubt for the game. Wifa, Diego Gomez are both fit and available for selection. Dan, we've already said at the top of the show, it's going to be a difficult game for Spurs. How do you see Brighton and Spurs lining up for this one? What kind of Tottenham team are you expecting to go into this?
I think it'll be similar to what we've kind of seen a bit more. I think it'll be a bit more pragmatic again. It'll be more counter-attacking, I think, because Brighton are a team if you give them too much, they're going to punish you. They're that type of team. And I would like to see what Johnny said, and I think I've been saying it for the last few weeks. To be honest, I haven't, even though statistically Porro's got some of the best stats in the Premier League as a right back this season. I haven't seen the best of Porro that we do see with him, like with his attacking prowess that he's got in him. And I think tomorrow, is the perfect opportunity for Udogie to play left back or left wing back and Spence to go on the other side. I think it does give it a little bit more of a nicer dynamic, especially if you want to, like Johnny said, you want to start seeing Udogie doing what he did at Udinese, because it was a different type of wing back when he was playing there. So I think Frank's going to go with he'll go with a team that can probably run in the midfield. So I definitely think Paulinho plays. I think Sarr plays. I think it'll probably Bergvall again. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Bentancur's out again. I just think for this type of game, you kind of need players who you've got a bit of everything. And I think those three at the moment give you the best balance of all of the things you need in the midfield, with Paulinho as that just outright old school defensive tackler, just wants to win every single last ball and mop up everything he can mop up. And then you've got Sarr that can just run everywhere. And then you've got Bergvall, what I'm liking with Bergvall now is you can see he's off the ball running, and he's in the final third as well. He's just so silky. This kid is going to be one of the best midfielders on the planet. I have no doubt about it. If he keeps progressing the way he is, and he's lucky enough to stay clear of major injuries and the way and be coached the right way, I think you're looking at a player who will be the next superstar at one of the biggest teams if Tottenham can't hold him. I think he'll be that next signing at Real Madrid, the Galactico type signing, or even a Liverpool or City or whoever who's going to willing to pay the money. As long as we haven't got new rich owners by then who've offered him 400 grand a week, then it's perfect. But that would be the perfect scenario, because this kid is going to the top. Like he is for me my favorite Spurs player, purely because when I look at him, I just see he looks at the game one step ahead of everyone else. Like his awareness. If you watch him in the stadium, or if when you're watching him in the stadium, he's always turning his head. He's always looking around. He's always looking around. And now he's starting to add those off the ball forward runs into his game now. I think Frank's given him a bit more of that license to do that. And I think his work with Kudus as well his link up play is starting to look really nice. And I think he'll start adding goals to his game as well. So you've got a bit of everything with those three midfielders. So I think that's who he'll go with. I'll be surprised if we see anyone else in the midfield. But I think he wants to go with a team that can match them on their press as well, because they're a team that can also press very high. And I think we're going to need to be able to, like Johnny said, counter press them really. And you need certain players to do that tomorrow, especially if you've got Matoma on that left wing. You're going to need, I think if Porro plays and Matoma's on the left tomorrow, I just feel that he's going to have a torrid time tomorrow, Porro, defensively.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely be a test for him if Porro doesn't end up starting. Just back on Berger for a second, because you brought him up, Dan. Frank, very complimentary about, as you'd imagine, Lucas Bergvall in his pre-match. And he just said, look, the last season when he laid the foundations for him, but he said you can literally see he's going from strength to strength. He's had that extra confidence. And you can see there was a situation in the second half against Villarreal where he got the ball from Mo in around the box, just took it forward inside the box. That's something you see from a player that has confidence. I think the coaches and I, we've been working on a couple of these things in the last few weeks. So much energy. And he's so dangerous in those final areas that we see him in. So fingers crossed. that continues. We need all his energy and enthusiasm in driving the team up, because he does need to continue doing that from us from a goal scoring aspect, because those are the areas that we know we've struggled so far in the final third. He also spoke, Frank, about that relationship with Christian Romero. I think we've also seen that in this last 24, 48 hours, especially in the closing etches of the game, of course, against Villarreal. They both went down the tunnel together, and Frank said on Romero, I rate him so highly. I agree with you that he's one of the best centre-backs in the world right now. And it clearly helps when you have won the likes of a World Cup, a Copa America, a Europa League and more. But the thing about Romero is that he's consistently now, week in, week out, and previously as well, year in, year out, showing that on world level in big games, he always shows up. And I've followed him for many, many years. He's a mature player. I'm not saying he hasn't been before, but he's had maturity since I've come to the football club. He's a great character. He loves his football. He is just a boy that quite simply loves playing the game and loves being out there with the guys. You can see it in his eyes. He's got that ability, and boom, now it's game time. Now it's competing. So he's a great, great character. Frank also said that for now, he doesn't want to look at the league table. The fact Spurs are third at the moment. He was asked when he'll look at it. He said, I'll look at it in April. Not getting carried away at all whatsoever. But he did say the fans should dream and have hope. That is what football is all about. And I also dream, but I'm a little bit close to the action. So I need to stay level-headed and focused on the next training session, the next game, and ensure we are ready and prepared for that. Johnny, just to come on to Brighton, like we said, tough place to go. A place that we've said in the intro of this show, we have struggled with. How do you see Spurs lining up there? And maybe the differences in terms of how Tottenham may have approached it the last couple of years up at the Amex?
Well, Brighton tend to at home play with a more high line, which probably would suit Spurs with the ball over the top for someone like, for Kudus. For me, Kudus, though, I'm going to get into trouble here. When I used to watch him at West Ham, I used to think to myself, you've got to have more end product. The runs are great, all the rest of it. You need more goals and more assists. And I think that Thomas Frank and Cochrane will definitely install that in him over the next 6 months to a year. Tomorrow will be an ample opportunity to test that with the balls over the top. Hopefully, Xavi Simons the same. Bit vulnerable. I think if we could exploit one part of Brighton's weakness is probably at set pieces. I wouldn't have been saying that last year or the year before. But
it probably was going against us rather than for us.
Yeah. So when you hear Thomas Frank say that he didn't watch last year's game, but what he's been doing is watching lots and lots of Brighton games. Yeah, that tells you he would have already identified with the set piece coach weaknesses in that Brighton set piece setup. So I expect us to exploit that and try to win it there. Listen, guys, you've just got to be happy. If someone was in a coma, let me tell you something. If someone was in a coma and they'd just woken up, right, they'd probably not believe a single word you said. Well, what happened? Well, we won the Europa League. We sacked the manager. Daniel Levy's left. Cuti Romero signed a new contract. We got a new manager, Thomas Frank. We signed Xavi Simons. Cuti signed a new contract. Paulinho signed. Kudos has signed. Simons has signed. Muani, and Daniel Levy's left. Right, and we'd be sat, and we've only lost one game so far this season. I only conceded one goal. They'd say, go and have a lie down, right? So we have to be grateful for where we are right now. Yes, tomorrow might be a blip. Yes, tomorrow might be ugly. Yes, tomorrow will be tough. But if we come away with 1 point or 3 points, then we should
consolidate. Consolidate to start with. And I keep saying this, we've conceded just one goal across 450 minutes, John, of all competitive football this term.
What is that? I mean, come on, we're going back
for balance. I know, I do, I understand, I know. And again, at the same time, I will just say this, I know people want to see the attack improve. We all want to see the attack improve. If anyone saw Johnny's video coming out of the ground, he wanted to see the attack improve. He had to go and pay for that, watch it and come back out and be in the rain for it. So, look, we all want to see, obviously, more in terms of the attacking element to it. I'm going to read out some quick fire stats. I'm going to kind of go to everyone for predictions, and we'll start with Gaz on the predictions. We know Brighton have completed a Premier League double over Tottenham last season. The only time they've ever won back-to-back league meetings with Spurs. Tottenham have lost away to Brighton in both the last two league seasons, but never before have they lost in 3 successive visits. I know Anthony Costa saying to me, shut up, Rick, stop these stats, don't bring them up. Like we said earlier, Brighton have just lost one in their last 10 Premier League home matches and are unbeaten in their last 6 of the Amex. That tells you, in terms of that perspective, this is not going to be an easy game for Tottenham, who have won both their away league games so far by an aggregate score of 5-0, and not since November 2020 under Jose Mourinho have they won 3 consecutive Premier League matches on the road, and that time it was a run of 4. So, look, an interesting one to actually close it on the stats-wise. Thomas Frank lost his first 2 Premier League meetings with Brighton in the 21-22 season, but has only lost one of his last 6 against the Seagulls while manager of Brentford. So there's a lot of things to take away from those stats. Interesting stats. Let's get some predictions. Gaz, let's come to you, mate. Absolute pleasure to have you back on the show. I know you're going to be filling in for us as well in the next few weeks. Gaz, what are we going for? Amex, tough place to go. What are we going to see from Tottenham? What Tottenham are we going to see?
I think the clean sheets, just on what we were talking about earlier, we're already matching last season already, so let's worry about that. But last 5 games, Brighton have scored 10 goals. Last 5 games, we've scored 9 goals. So on that, I'm going with a 0-0 ball draw. No, I'm with Johnny. If we can come out of here with a point, a minimum, I'm happy, and just keep building more minutes in legs, more time playing together. Obviously, I want to see Tottenham win. I want us to win every single game. But Hart here is saying getting away with a nice point. I'll be very, very happy with.
Okay, interesting. Let's go to you, Dan. Dan, love to be back on the show. Always a pleasure. I'll have a rash you for the last couple of weeks, but we've got you back.
I love it. You can harass me all you want, Rick. No worries.
Dan read me this morning. Rick, you're so professional with these messages. I mean, Dan, I'm just trying to stay sane. Dan, Alex, what are we expecting up there? What do you think? Thomas Frank football will bring us.
Gary mentioned Gary mentioned the both teams have scored a lot of goals in the last couple of games. I think it's going to be a reverse this time. I think we're going to win 3-2 this time. I just think we're going to. I don't know. I just feel like we're going to win tomorrow. And I'm normally lately I've been a lot more optimistic than I have been pessimistic. But for me, I don't know. It's just something feels like we're going to score. It might be. Appreciate that, Robert. It might be that a game where we actually concede more than what we'd expect or what we'd want to concede. But I think Tottenham fans I think we'd be happy if you go and beat Brighton 3-2 at home, because it'd be an exciting game. It means that the game's had a bit of everything. I think I couldn't see a scrappy 3-2, put it that way. I think it's going to be 3-2, 3-1 maybe to Spurs. That's okay. I'm going to go 3-2.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, you've got to go back. Our last win up at Brighton, for those that weren't aware, was when Kane kicked the Coca-Cola bottle. So just on that point, very quickly, guys, yes, around the table, these murmurs are restarting with regards to Harry Kane. Before we do get the Harry Kane verdict, John, prediction for Brighton, what are we going for?
A very, very convincing 2-1 win.
To Spurs, yeah?
Yeah. Listen, look, it's going to be a tough game. And as I said, it's going to be the counterweight to Min-hyeok and Matoma. Can you exploit that space in behind them? And I think we can do it. And a set-piece goal, 2-1.
Someone drug test Johnny. You weren't giving these predictions out last season.
Oh, is there any wonder? Oh my God!
Tell you what, we someone check him out.
It's the Frank drug. It's the Frank drug, Ricky. It's the Frank drug.
Okay,
he's injected it too much.
It's gonna be tough. Look, I mean, like I say, I think we go up there with confidence. Though, that given that I keep on saying that point, I can't believe that stat. 1 goal across 450 minutes we've conceded. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt me. I keep on saying that, but it's a world away in terms of seeing the defensive resilience. But I do appreciate, again, I will say this for balance, we do want to see, obviously, better attacking in the final third. And that's something Frank has kept reiterating, both in his pre-match and also in the embargo presser. For those that do check that out as well, there's been a real emphasis on the fact we want to see attacking football back at Spurs and in general, and Frank is working on that. Final one, guys, the Harry Kane murmurs don't go away. Of course, he was part of a team that destroyed Chelsea earlier in the week in the Champions League. Just a yes or no on this? Obviously, Daniel Levy moving on, stepping down, coming away from the footballing side of things. Is it more or less likely to happen? John, let's start with you. As Gary shows us this Harry Kane shiny card there. Yes or no, John, for you, Harry Kane? Would he come back to Tottenham at some point? Can you see it?
No. I basically think, for guys, look, the romance is him coming back. And can he play continue play? Yes, because like Terry Sheringham, he's not blessed with pace, and it's all about guile and using football intellect. But let's be honest, I've said all along that I believe he'll follow Lewandowski to Barcelona. You know, as a footballer, what better way to complete your dream? Best ever striker, you know, done it at Bayern Munich, done it for England, to finish your career at Barcelona and then probably go to the MLS and play with Heung-min Son, who's got a hat-trick last night.
So you, just on that point, I know we're pushed for time, John, you don't think that it's etching away at him, this Premier League record? You don't think it's a priority for him, no?
No.
Okay, interesting. Dan, Harry Kane, return or no?
I think the only way he returns is if we get new owners, like some Qatari owners who are going to give him like 400 grand a week or something like this. I can't see it as much as I want him.
You think it's a money thing rather than anything else? Is that what you think?
The only reason I say that is because if we've got owners like that who can pay him wages like that, then it means you're showing intent. You want to, you're probably most likely going to go and try and get some of the best players around. So then that will give him the indication that, okay, actually we are going for a Premier League, not just trying to compete. Like we actually want to win it. I think that maybe would give him a decision of, if Tottenham are going to do that, the fact that Romero signed a new contract and everything's looking good, you never know. Like it's not the realms of possibility.
Can I just ask you a quick question though? In all fairness and seriousness, right? If Harry Kane came back to the club, you've got absolutely zero chance of signing any top striking talent because they ain't going to get game time. You know, and this is my problem. You know, I love Harry Kane. He's a legend, forever legend at the club. But the reality is, while he was at the club, no one wanted to sign for us. No top talent because that's going to get any game time. That's my conundrum.
But that's why I think it's not something that we can sit here and say he will come back or he won't come back, because we just don't. Right now, it's hard to say because like you never know. Like for example, in a year and a half's time, he might be like, okay, I want to go, and we haven't sorted out our striker position. But who knows? In next summer, we could find the next Harry Kane, for example.
Well, we've got Mason Melia coming, haven't we? I think a lot of people are excited about Mason Melia in January. A lot of people are excited about Mason Melia. Yeah.
This is the thing. I think right now, Rick, no, but I think it is possible. It's possible. Only if certain circumstances happen.
Okay. Dan, thank you so much. Gal, close the show for us. Harry Kane, return to Spurs, yes or no? What do you think? Your perspective?
Well, I looked earlier, it's a 13-hour drive. So if I set off now, could probably get him by the time we get to Brighton. But all seriousness,
might need him up front the way.
I think it's down to two things. I think if we start building a competitive side and that we are at the top and we're winning things, I think that that law of coming back home and that record is probably there. And I think he will want to win something with Tottenham. Equally, he's obviously a huge American football fan. He's a huge fan of America itself. He's made no secret about that, and I think the law of the MLS will be too much for him to turn down. I don't think Barcelona will. I love Barcelona. I think that he'll probably end up in the MLS.
Interesting. Okay, look, we shall see. But all eyes go on to Brighton at the Amex, of course, on Saturday, where our listeners and audio are going to be listening to this in the build-up to the game. Can Spurs go up there, win again, and give us that winning feeling? Like I said, we've not won, as we go back and say that, 4 competitive games in a row. You have to go back a number of years for Spurs to go and do that. Can they do it? We shall see. I want to say a massive thank you to this wonderful panel. We'll be seeing their faces, of course, across the season and more. The wonderful Gary Wall. Gary, thank you so much, mate. Thank you. The wonderful Danny Kyriacou, DK Max, as he was rapid and confirmed by Johnny at the start of the show, and the wonderful Johnny H3232 on Insta and Talking Tottenham 1882 over at Football Wink and Spurs 5 and more. Guys, we have been the last word on Spurs. We will see you after Brighton. From us all, keep safe, keep well. The Frank engine is getting ready to go again. And as always, come on you Spurs.